All right, now we are going to learn how to record and insert things in multi-track. Last time we learned things in the waveform view. Remember, the waveform view was just a single view. Remember, we say okay to whatever default settings. A single view where we had audio in the left channel and audio in the right channel. We recorded, we inserted a file, and learned how to save. So super simple. Now, instead of the waveform view, we're going to move to the multi-track view. And we do this so that we can blend more than one track together. For your assignment for COM110, you will actually need to blend together music and your voice, possibly sound effects if you'd like to add them. So we want to know how to be able to multi-track something. So multi-track, simply the difference between waveform, the single view, or multi-track, the multiple track view. Kind of simple. I'll once again say OK to the default. If it says that a session already exists, just say yes, I'd like to override it. You probably won't if you haven't done this before, but that may pop up, and that's how you handle it. Okay, multi-track a little more complicated than your waveform view because each track has its own purpose. The nice thing about multi-track is you have a little bit more control, a little easier about what you're recording. The most important thing to know is that when you're recording, you only want to record in one track at a time. You don't want to record in multiple. So we want to stick with this one. And to make that happen, we have 3 little buttons that will guide you along the way and tell this track exactly what to do. If we want to not use this track, let's say something's recorded in another, we can push this button. M is for mute, as you saw. We can unmute it by clicking again. S is for solo. That means that when you record, this is the only track that you're recording on. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, but when there are tracks in track 2 and 3 and beyond, you don't want to record over in that track. You want it to only record solo in this track. You can undo that. And then we also have the R, getting ready for the track to record, arming for record. So if you push that, it will turn red. It'll also show your sound bar right here. This is your preview bar. Remember, we want to stay in the green and yellow, and we don't want to get to the point that our voice is so loud that we're into the red like that. So that's kind of like your setup. You can test ahead of time with your microphone. Now that we're set to record on this track only, we're also set to do a solo track, so we record only in this track. We can push the record button down here, just the red circle. When we push the circle, we should start to see our voice showing up. So it is one single track, but as you can see, there is the left channel on top and the right channel on bottom, and that's how it will record for you. When you're done with your recording, you push the stop button and the recording will stop. It'll turn green, saying now it's ready to do something. So let's say we just recorded our voice, and we also want to add in a music file. In the last tutorial, we talked a little bit and showed you how to insert a music file that already existed. So we want to do that in another track so that they can overlap with each other. What we do in this case is we unsolo this track, we unrecord, and we do mute so that this track then returns to gray, and that's not going to play. Even if I click here, put my cursor anywhere, push the space bar and get it to play, it's not going to play because it's grayed out, it's muted. If we want to insert that music track I was talking about, we simply right click in the middle of the track. You can also do this in the file option. You can file and insert track, which is off the screen so you can't see it in this tutorial. So you right click and you insert a file. Here you go. You'll have files that you'll need to download in some way or have available to you if you want to insert something. For us, remember I have this audio file and I already have this predetermined music track that I've chosen for this class. It shows up wherever this cursor happens to lay. This red cursor goes through all of the tracks, but it really only matters which track is active, which is this one at the time. You don't want the music to start in the middle of nowhere. So you can actually go to the top of the track, see how it turned from a cursor to a pointer. If you left click on that and drag, it can go back and forth. You see it actually hopped up here. It turned green up there. It can go from track to track, but usually you leave things in whatever track you place them in. So now, since this track is muted, if we solo this track, we should be able to hear just the music. And there it is. There's that music that we just absolutely love. Nice. Okay, so now that we have spoken, our vocal, we also have a music track. If we were to take this out of solo mode and take this out of a mute mode, and they're both active, if we push play, bring the cursor over here just by clicking, it'll drag back over there for you, or you can drag it with this blue bar right here, whatever you prefer. Now we will hear both tracks together. We should start to see our voice showing up. So it is one single track. As you can see, there is the left channel on top and the right channel on bottom. And we can push the space bar whenever you'd like to stop previewing that. That's how we put the two tracks together so we can hear them both. Now you notice that in my initial recording of my voice up here, I wasn't exactly saying anything exciting and important. It was just me describing what was happening. So let's say I wanted to re-record this so that it actually made sense for something that I was recording. So let's just say it's a little welcome to the COM110 class. If I want to get rid of this, I can simply click on it and select it. Once it's selected on the top, if I push the delete key on my keyboard, it is gone. If that happens accidentally, of course, you can go to the edit and the top of the menu, which you can't see off the screen here, and do undo remove. If you do that, of course, it comes back. But I want to delete it, so I'm clicking on it. Oops, that was a mistake. If that ever happens, you can actually click back into the multi-track like that. Did you see what happened? I accidentally double-clicked it like that. Now I put it back into the multi-track by clicking like that. That's good for you guys to see, actually. So now that this is selected, I can just push the delete key again and it's gone. Now to re-record in this track, I want to make sure I don't record over my music. So I want to mute the music. I want to record on this track only. And I want it to be solo so it doesn't overlap on the others. I also want to take this cursor and move it over like this by either dragging it like that or just clicking wherever I want it to go, and it should follow where I go. I push the record button, and here is a little welcome to COM110. Welcome to COM110. Thanks for tuning in to our Adobe Audition learning session. Have a great day. Then I can push record. So let's say that we want this to go along with the music here. To listen back, I just unmute this, and now if I unsolo this, they both show up bright, and I'll be able to move my cursor back over here, and we can listen. Welcome to COM110. Thanks for tuning in to our Adobe Audition learning session. Have a great day. And then the music continues on and on and on. I think it goes for about 30 seconds or so, which is a really long amount of time when you're editing audio and it's too much. One problem that we may have heard is that when I started to talk, you could hear me fine. Then when this portion of the music kicked in, because it was basically twice as loud as the intro to the music, I was drowned out a little bit. So you may want to adjust things a tiny bit. You may want to turn me up a little bit, or you may want to turn the music down a little bit, and this is how you do it. In each track at the beginning, this right here measures your decibels. Decibels is just a measurement for audio. If you hover over this, see those little arrows show up with that finger? If you hold down the keypad, scroll to the left, you'll see it goes into negative numbers. That will turn my volume down. If you scroll to the right, it'll turn my volume up. See, it went much higher. So now if I were to click over here and play, it's a lot louder. Welcome to COM110. Thanks for tuning in. So that's how you do that. You can also click right here and put in whatever number you want. If you want it to be a little bit quieter, instead of plus 5.7, maybe plus 2 kind of thing. Into our Adobe Audition learning session. Okay, if you would like it to go back to where it originally was recorded, you just push 0 and it's back to where it was. There we go. Have a great day. I push spacebar to make that play and to make that stop. But I don't really want to mess with my voice's volume. I want to mess with the volume of this track because the music is what gets too loud here. So maybe right here, I'll click on it, drag it to the left a little bit. It'll get about 4 decibels quieter. You don't really need to know a whole lot about decibels. It's more of a by the ear thing as you play this. Here's what it'll sound like now that I turned it down a little bit. Welcome to COM110. Thanks for tuning in to our Adobe Audition
learning session. Have a great day.
Okay, now I have way too much music for the voice that I used. So how am I going to make this track fade out? I want to make it fade out really nicely instead of just ending abruptly. I could just cut off the rest of this and it suddenly just stop in the middle of a note, or I could fade it out nice. And that's what I'm going to do with these tools. These are called the volume envelope points. And it just simply adjusts the volume for you. Everything happens on this yellow or gold line. What I do is I hover over it with my mouse like this. I click and let's see, there a little dot will appear. Do you see the dot? I'll click again somewhere else and another dot will appear. Those little dots is what I can use to manipulate the volume. At its highest volume, this track would be all the way up here. This little yellow line would be all the way at the top. At its lowest volume, or nothing, this yellow line would be all the way down. So since I have a dot here and a dot here, these two volume envelope points allow me to control that. If I select it or highlight it like this, click on my mouse pad and pull that down, that is what fades out the volume. It's at half volume here, going down to none. Here, let's listen to see what that looks like. I'm clicking so that I'm in the track, and now I'm pushing the space bar to start it.
Learning session. Have a great day.
And it nicely fades out to the end. So if that is a mistake that you make, of course you can do File or Edit and Undo, or you can just grab that point again, bring it back up until it kind of locks in a straight position for full volume if you want to do that. Let's say you don't want to make it fade out all the way. Instead, you want to cut out everything else. What you do to cut something is use a couple tools up here. One way is to select the razor tool. You select that. A razor, you know what it does. See, it has a little blue line that's floating along with it. I click on that razor, and when I do, there's a line here because this just separated into two tracks. Now before you move this, if you use that razor tool, you have to go back up here and select the cursor again to be able to move things and not cut everything up. So now that there's a track here, there's a separate track here, I can click on this, I can drag it away, up or down or sideways, and if it's highlighted, I can simply push the delete key and it goes away. So now the file would end abruptly like this. Let's see if we can get the cursor back over here.
Learning session. Have a great day.
Actually, I accidentally cut that in just exactly the right place. That's how you can cut something out. And this is how those files can blend together. Audio in this track and music in this track. Now, before we go with this session, it'll be fairly quick, but it's fairly easy to save this file. Right now, these are two separate tracks. When you play something in iTunes or back as an MP3, it's only one track, and so we need to save it as one track. So what I'm going to do is go to the top of the screen. You can't see it, but it says File. It'll say, let's see, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You go to the top, you can't see it, but it says Multi-Track and Mix Down Session to New File. This is called a session because it's multiple tracks together. Mix down the entire session. Then it will blend the music and the speaking together and turn into one session like this.
Welcome to COM110.
And now both things are there. We can go up to File and Save. And of course, once again, we always select MP3 for the purpose of this class. We make sure we browse to the folder that we want, which in this case is that COM110 folder that we created. And now we can call it, what, Test 2. Always label something. Don't use the default label, because otherwise you'll accidentally record over everything. You just push Save, and it will go, and OK. And your file is now saved that you can go back to at a later time and play back as an MP3. Here you go, Test 2. It'll play back in iTunes or whatever your program uses.
Welcome
and there
to
it
COM110.
is.
Thanks for tuning in to our Adobe Audition learning session.